Hey everyone, welcome to week 77. Today's day one. Today's Monday. This is our first day of our new week, new theme. The theme for this week is going to be interpreting color. Let's see how we do. Okay, let's get started. This is Monday. This is our first day of our, what we're going to call interpreting color week. It's kind of a throwback. It's like a version 2.0 from week 14, where we were working from black and white photographs, and we were trying to get from black and white to color using acrylic gouache. And in my mind, I thought that week was great. I'm still very hesitant about the use of gouache because I don't think I'm very good with water miscible mediums. I think they are best used when you have a super strong committed drawing. And I think my drawing is kind of fidgety. I always feel that my drawing, even though committed in its nature, it is a drawing that doesn't distill well to like single strokes. I feel far more comfortable just kind of inching my way towards what I want to say. Many times, I don't even know what I want to say. And I think that that sense of uncertainty is the one that prevents me from doing, this really beautiful mark making. I just have to feel my way through my painting. And I always felt guilty about not being committed enough. I think I spoke about how much I love John Singer Sargent during one of last week's videos. If I judge myself in terms of what Sargent teaches us, then I'm a complete failure because it's very hard for me to just make all these committed strokes, to build my painting upon committed brush marks and single strokes. I find that super, super difficult. I don't have that degree of certainty with my painting. I think it has to do with my sense of discovery. I think it has to do with why I love painting, which is almost like a traversal of the unknown. I have an idea of what I want in my mind. I have this general idea of what I want. But, as with everything in painting, as soon as I start executing the painting, so many things change. So many things happen because we can't anticipate painting. I think it would be very sad if we could. If be it throughout ability or experience, everything that's going to happen during the execution of a painting, then at least to me, that's boring, tremendously unattractive. And I'm not putting down people that love that degree of control. No, I can only speak of my path, but I just can't convince myself that the execution of a painting is just about the exercise of control. I adore when the making of the painting becomes this active, pulsing event that you're a part of. Your mind, body, and soul are right there. And you feel the pressure, you feel the stress of breaking a painting and taking it to a direction where you weren't supposed to go. And then how you sometimes brute force it or sometimes finesse it so that you can get right back on track. I love those things. Those things speak about struggle and everything that reminds me that there's a connection between my life, between the regular act of living and the act of painting, I welcome. Because everything that makes painting feel like it doesn't belong to life, I don't enjoy, I don't appreciate. I actually like that things feel that they're part of my life. That way I don't have to put my painter hat on and put my life on hold while I'm painting because, painting is such a sacred, different thing that I just can't be part of the real world while the act of painting is going on. No, you guys have heard me say this, but I love and I enjoy that painting is just a thing that I can do while my kids are around. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I could be in the corner of a room in a workshop, or I could be in front of my students doing a demo. It doesn't matter. I want it to feel the same. I want it to be relaxed. I want it to be as if nothing has changed. And the only thing that's different about me having lunch and me making a painting is, I don't know, that I can't eat my painting. I don't know where I was going with that one, but I think we pulled through. Anyways, so this week is going to be a version 2.0-ish of that week 14, where we try to take the information from black and white photographs and we interpret it through color. Now, what happened during that week 14 is that even though I wasn't in total control of what I was doing because I was using acrylic gouache, I realized that I wanted to be far more expressive with my color. Looking back at those paintings, I noticed that there was a sense of urgency almost to try and grasp the possibilities that sprung from working with highly saturated colors. And I told myself, let's do that during this week. Let's try to push the almost artificiality of color that can be achieved. Artificiality in the sense that it deviates from, nature, from the nature that's in front of us. But I told myself, let's push that and let's see what can be achieved if we embrace those weird color relationships. And I think ultimately that's what fascinates me most about working from black and white photographs. It's the fact that nowadays, which is very different from, let's say painting that was being done at the turn of the century, end of the 19th century, early 20th century, we have color photography now. We have our phone in our pocket and we're just a touch screen away from having a pretty good record of an image that can supply us with color reference. So when we choose to work from black and white photographs nowadays, it's because it's a choice. It's because we want to work from black and white. And we could be of two minds here. We could either work from black and white just to push ourselves to see how much we can evoke nature, to evaluate if we have a good idea of what nature looks like, and see how much we have learned from nature, and if we can apply that information that we have in our brains that has been constructed from past experiences and put it to use in the quote-unquote coloring of this black and white photograph. Or we could take another road, which is far more liberating, I think, which is, black and white photographs, they give you information about drawing, structure, values. There's a ton of useful elements that we can extract from a black and white photograph. But if there's no color there, it's almost like you're absolutely free to do whatever you want. And that's amazing. That sense of liberty is the one that cracks open the world of possibilities that's in front of you. And I love that feeling. I love that feeling. I enjoy painting from life. I really, really do. Every time I do a workshop, that's what we do. I've endlessly talked about how my education was almost exclusively painting from life. So I think that everything I know sensibly about painting was built upon this foundation of working from life. And again, I adore this act. But I do feel that naturalism is a beautiful anchor that you have to drag around. You are subjected to nature. And if you want to connect with nature that way, that's incredible. That's a lifetime of work. But if you want to see nature as your starting point, as this platform that just opens an infinite amount of doors in front of you, and it tells you, pick whichever one you want. Whichever one you want. There's no wrong answers here. I find that immensely satisfying. So when I have information in a black and white photograph in front of me, and I've decided to try and be super expressive with my color, to try and see if I can break this photograph, if I can take that information that makes sense because it's very concise, very concrete, it works, to try and see if through color you can push it so much that something is just off about it. I love thinking that I can do that. I don't know if I can do it, to be completely honest. I know that when I say that I want to push myself, there's always a limit. I always hit a wall. There are parameters to my ability and my willingness to see how far I can go. I know this. We've talked about this before. It's not just about saying, I'm going to break free from these chains and I'm going to just tear down those parameters that are inscribing me in this kind of naturalist way of looking at painting. No, it's not quite that easy. I mean, that's the right attitude, but I think that it takes more than just an attitude and convincing yourself that you're going to do it. What that usually means is that you have to make a ton of paintings, and you have to make a ton of paintings where you are really pushing yourself. Now, what does really pushing yourself mean? That if your instinct is telling you, oh, this should be a little bit grayer, a little more controlled, you say, no, let me see if I could fend off my instinct and fight to see if I change these variables, if I change these relationships, what is going to happen? Is the equilibrium of the painting going to be at risk? Is the information that I can extract from the black and white photograph capable of withstanding a ton of experimentation? Or is it going to break down? Is it going to buckle under all that weight of just being super, super expressive? That's really interesting to me. I really feel that that's a world that begs to be discovered, because I think that to tear down our own parameters is by making paintings that don't necessarily work, by making paintings that are failures. And this is the tough part. we have to examine those paintings. We have to look at those paintings and say, wow, I was really trying to, think outside the box with this one, but it didn't really work. Maybe I thought that I didn't really need the value relationships that were present in the photograph. Maybe I thought that I could sacrifice those. And then when I saw my painting, it just didn't configure anything. It was just a mess. So I have to evaluate my failures to say, for example, okay, I need to be more mindful of my values next time. I can't just make those interchangeable. So I think we need a bunch of those quote unquote failures, a bunch of those failed experiments in our catalog to be able to say, I know what works for me because I was able to deduce that from all the moments that didn't work. I was able to understand why something worked because I went through a ton of efforts where it didn't work. And I mindfully reflected upon them and I recognized why they didn't work. I think that's the way you can construct something solid and something that feels like this is your path because you're pushing things based on your own experiences. You're not using the efforts that somebody else did when they were pushing and then convince yourself that you're claiming them as your own. No, we've talked about this before. We can't do that. That's why if you love something, it's much better if you just look at it and say, I celebrate it. This is wonderful work. And if you want to make a painting that is an overt celebration of that particular artist and you just want to say, I love how she paints and this is my way of thanking her, that's totally cool. But you can't make that your life. You can't make your work about that because then it doesn't make sense. It's never going to be your work. You're just going to be working for the sake of perpetuating this amazing painter's work. We don't want to do that. That's a life wasted, I feel. Ultimately, what we want to do is just do our own painting. That's what painting is asking of us. Painting in many ways is just telling us, here's all my history. Here are all the people that have been extraordinary through centuries of painting. There is so much stuff that you can learn from and start constructing your own path, but it is ultimately your path. You have to walk down this path. So at some point, we have to say, I'm here to celebrate other people, but I'm also here to be appreciative of their work in the sense that they have given me the strength so that I can create my own path. Now, many times that path that we can carve for ourselves, we don't find it to be attractive because chances are, and this is totally okay if we say this out loud, chances are we're not going to be as good as those people that we celebrate. When I look at Sargent, when I look at Rembrandt, I'm never going to be Sargent and I'm never going to be Rembrandt, but I could do one of two things. I could just be incredibly depressed because I'm never going to be as good as them, or I can just say, yeah, what did you expect? Of course I'm not going to be as good as them. It would be absurd for me to think that, but that doesn't mean that I can't paint. No, of course not. I can do my painting and I can live a happy life in the pursuit of my own painting. And to be honest, I think that that's the healthiest choice. I think that that's the choice that's going to convince you that your paintings are worth it. Uncovering the stories that you want to narrate, that's your path. And maybe people want you to do something different, but you can only tell the stories that you can tell. You can only be the painter that you can be. So in that sense, other people can't really be part of this equation. So instead of appropriating all these other wonderful people's achievements and thinking that they are your own and thinking that that's okay because maybe in that path you're going to receive compliments that are not really for you but are directed towards the people that you are emulating. Instead of doing that, I prefer the quieter path where maybe you don't hear a lot of people saying how amazing you are. Maybe you don't get a lot of likes in your Instagram post because who cares about those things? So maybe there's nothing really immediately attractive in that path. But what that path is teaching you, what it's leaving behind, is a ton of information and experience that you can grow from, that you can really develop from. So that to me is far, far more attractive than people saying that they like your work or that you sell paintings that deep down you know are not really your own, that they never belong to you. You just borrowed them for a show. So for today, I thought it was really cool to show you an example of how we can extract information from these painters that we enjoy and say, I'm going to put it to use in my own painting. So today we're basing our painting on a photograph of Richard Diebenkorn. I think we've mentioned Diebenkorn before, But for those of you who don't know him, he's a West Coast artist. He was born in the Pacific West Coast, I think in Portland. And he always seemed to stay in the West Coast, like San Francisco, Berkeley. I think he did his master's in New Mexico, so that's the only time he moved around a bit. But he stayed in the Pacific Coast. He's one of these Bay Area artists. He's part of a group of painters that came after David Park's generation that were very conscious of what was going on in the abstract side of painting. So they were very aware of what Picasso had done, of what Matisse had done. In Diebenkorn's case, he was very much influenced by, and you can tell, by Matisse, by Gorky. You could sense the DNA of those artists in his painting. So Diebenkorn is a wonderful artist because he started very abstractly. Then he went into figurative work where he was doing these sort of Hopper-esque paintings, but they were charged with that abstract quality that he had worked from before. He eventually did some geometric abstraction paintings, which are absolutely wonderful. But what's amazing about all of this is that he accompanied those, let's call them philosophies of painting, with a constant drawing from life. He was always drawing from the model. He was drawing still lifes, and his drawing ability is absurd. I mean, it's ridiculous. He is one of the most incredible draftspeople that I've ever seen. And I think what made possible to have that sensibility was the fact that he was kind of oscillating between abstraction and figurative work almost all throughout his life. It's really wonderful to see a life of painting like Diebenkorn's that teaches us that painting is but one thing. It doesn't matter if you're doing an abstract painting or if you're doing figurative work. Painting is but one. Painting is the source. To try and differentiate it, I mean, that's what we human beings do, and we're stupid because of it. But the truth is, there is so much force holding painting together that it's ridiculous to try and believe that there are different isms in painting and that our job is to feel that the way we paint is the right one and the way other people paint is the wrong one, and we're just going to use Facebook comments to have stupid arguments about this. That's always been really dumb to me. I don't really like to get into painting arguments. Like, if you enjoy painting, good for you. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm enjoying painting. So I think if the both of us are enjoying our lives through painting, then, you know, we can just pretty much be happy for each other, and that's it. So today's attempt was turning all this info that I saw in a black and white photograph, filter it through Diebenkorn's painting, through Diebenkorn's experiences. And that's what charged me into wanting to say, okay, let's use, the saturated blue here. Let's use this pink here, this grayish magenta for the shadow. Let's take some risks in terms of the choreography of shapes and the angularity of those shapes. I think that that's when you understand your subject matter and you say, there is so much richness that is inherent to saying Diebenkorn that we can use all of that to propel our own painting. We can use that to push our painting act. But remember, keyword here, our painting act. We are the painters. We are trying to figure out our path. If in our path we meet with Diebenkorn, we can observe his work throughout the years and we can say, it is fascinating. You're an incredible artist, one of the most amazing painters of the 20th century for sure. Let me see what I can learn from you. And let me see if I can invite this to my own painting. And let me see how my painting reacts to it. Let me see if I can find a way so that my painting doesn't reject this exercise. So that was it for today. Tomorrow, remember, Spanish Tuesdays, brush up on your Spanish, where we're also going to be working from another black and white photograph. And we're going to try to interpret colors in ways that we haven't done so. We're going to try to be super expressive during this week. So we hope you liked today's video. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you. Bye.